Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you had to shrink your soul just to fit through the door? Not because the room was small, but because someone inside makes you feel like your bigness is a problem. We often think manipulation sounds like a shout or a threat, but what if I told you the most dangerous cage is built out of "I love you and I'm just worried about you"? Today, we aren't looking for villains in masks. We're looking for the quiet strings attached to the hands that claim to hold yours. You aren't losing your mind, you're being edited, and it's time to take the pen back. I want you to sit with that for a moment, the idea of being edited. It's a slow process, isn't it? A word changed here, a memory questioned there, a boundary erased because it was inconvenient for someone else. You don't wake up one day and realize you've lost yourself. It happens in the quiet spaces between breaths, in the middle of arguments that don't make sense, and in the heavy silence that follows when you try to stand up for yourself. I'm not here to give you a dry list of psychological terms or to lecture you from a high mountain. I'm here because I know what it feels like to look in the mirror and not recognize the person looking back. I'm here to talk about the invisible contract you might have signed without even knowing it. This is a contract where you've traded your peace for their comfort, your truth for their version of reality, and your freedom for the illusion of being needed. Most people will tell you to just walk away, but they don't understand how hard that is when you've been convinced that you're the problem. They don't understand that manipulation isn't always a punch. Sometimes it's a slow-acting poison disguised as medicine. We are going to break that spell today. We are going to look at the 7 signs that someone is secretly pulling your strings, but more importantly, we are going to talk about how to cut those strings without losing your heart in the process. You see, the biggest myth about manipulation is that it's done by people who hate you. In reality, it's often done by people who claim to love you the most, but who are too afraid to ask for what they need directly. They use your kindness as a handle. They use your empathy as a doorway, and it's time we closed that door. I want to tell you a story about a traveler. Imagine this person is walking through a dense, unfamiliar forest. They're a bit lost, a bit tired, and the sun is starting to set. Suddenly, they meet a guide. This guide looks kind, they speak softly, and they offer the traveler a map. The guide says, "I know these woods better than anyone. Follow my map and you'll be safe." So the traveler follows. But as they walk, the path gets narrower, the thorns get sharper. Every time the traveler points out that the map doesn't seem to match the trees, the guide sighs and says, "You're just reading it wrong. You've always had a bad sense of direction. Don't you trust me?" So the traveler keeps going, even though their feet are bleeding and their heart is screaming that something is wrong. Eventually, they realize the map isn't leading them out of the forest at all. It's leading them in a giant circle, right back to the guide's house. The guide didn't want to help the traveler find their way home. The guide wanted the traveler to stay and keep them company, to cook their meals and stoke their fire. The guide needed the traveler to be lost so that the guide could feel like a hero. Think about your life right now. Are you walking toward your own dreams, or are you just following a map someone else handed you because you were afraid of being lost? Are you actually making progress, or are you just circling someone else's needs? There's another way to look at this too. Think of a social thermostat. In a healthy relationship, both people have a hand on the dial. You find a temperature that works for both of you. But in a manipulative dynamic, only one person controls the heat. When you start to feel confident, when you start to grow and shine, they turn the temperature down to freezing. They become cold, distant, or critical. You start to shiver, so you put on a coat. You change your behavior. You apologize for things you didn't do. You try to be better. Then, once you're sufficiently small and compliant, they turn the heat up so high it's sweltering. They shower you with affection and praise, but only because you've stopped being yourself. You spend all your energy just trying to adjust to their climate. You're so busy trying not to freeze or burn that you never notice the door is locked from the outside. You were exhausted, not because life is hard, but because you were playing a game where the rules change every hour. Let's look at the first sign. Selective silence. This isn't just the silent treatment where someone ignores you for a day. This is much more subtle. It's the withholding of the sun. Imagine someone who is warm and bright when you do exactly what they want, but the moment you express a different opinion or set a boundary, a cloud moves over them. They don't necessarily yell, they just withdraw. They become busy. They give one-word answers. They make you feel the chill of their absence while they are still sitting right in front of you. You find yourself performing, doing little dances, trying to get the sun to come back out. You start to associate your own needs with the cold. This is how they train you to silence yourself before they even have to. The second sign is what I call helpful doubt. This is one of the most painful ones because it wears the mask of care. You come home excited about a new job, a new hobby, or a new friend. A manipulator won't tell you that you're bad at it. Instead, they'll tilt their head, look at you with a worried expression and say, "Are you sure you're ready for that? I just don't want to see you get hurt again." Or, "That sounds great, but remember how stressed you got last time you tried something like this?" They plant a tiny seed of doubt in your soil, and then they water it with concern. Over time, that seed grows into a giant tree that blocks out your own intuition. You stop trusting your excitement. You start thinking that your ambition is actually a mental health problem. They aren't protecting you from the world. They are protecting themselves from the version of you that doesn't need them. Then there is the third sign, the emotional debt collector. Have you ever noticed that some people keep a mental ledger of every nice thing they've ever done for you? They don't give gifts, they make investments. When you try to say no to them, or when you need something for yourself, they pull out the receipt. They say things like, "After everything I've done for you?" Or, "I was there for you when nobody else was." They use their past kindness as a weapon to control your future actions. It makes you feel like you are constantly in the red, like you owe them your very soul because they helped you move house 3 years ago. Real love doesn't keep a ledger. Real love is a gift, not a loan. If you feel like you're constantly paying off a debt that never gets smaller, you aren't in a relationship, you're in a transaction. The fourth sign is the shifting finish line. This is the exhaustion of the treadmill. You think, if I can just finish this project, or if I can just be a little more patient, or if I can just lose 10 pounds, then they will finally be happy. Then we will finally be at peace. But the moment you reach the finish line, they move it another mile down the road. Suddenly, it's not about the project anymore. It's about how you didn't spend enough time with them while you were working on it. It's not about the weight. It's about your obsession with your looks. You are kept in a state of perpetual not enough. This is intentional. If you ever felt like you were enough, you might realize you don't need their validation, so they make sure the prize is always just out of reach. The fifth sign is the mirroring trap. In the beginning, this person felt like your soulmate. They liked everything you liked. They had the same dreams, the same fears, the same weird sense of humor. It felt magical. But over time, you realized they weren't showing you who they were. They were just reflecting you back to yourself to make you feel safe. Once you were hooked, the reflections started to change. They started to introduce flaws in you that they discovered through their deep connection. They use the fact that they know you so well to dismantle you from the inside. They say, "Because I'm so much like you, I know that you're actually being selfish right now." They use your own identity as a cage. It's a form of emotional identity theft. The sixth sign is the triangulation of everyone. A manipulator loves an invisible crowd. They will say things like, "Everyone is worried about you," or "Your friends told me they think you're acting a bit unstable lately." They never give names, they never give specifics. They just use this vague "everyone" to make you feel like the whole world is judging you. It isolates you. It makes you feel like the only person who truly has your back is the manipulator themselves, the person who is brave enough to tell you what everyone else is saying. It's a lie. Usually, everyone is just them, or a version of the truth they've twisted to suit their needs. They want you to feel like you're standing on a tiny island and they are the only bridge back to the mainland. And finally, the seventh sign, the vulnerability weapon. This is perhaps the most cruel. When you love someone, you give them the keys to your secret rooms. You tell them about your childhood wounds, your deepest shames, and your quietest fears. A manipulator takes those keys, and the moment they feel threatened or lose control, they use them to unlock those rooms and set fire to everything inside. They take your softest parts and bring them into the light to shame you. They say, "No wonder your father left you if this is how you act." They use your pain as a steering wheel. It is a profound betrayal of trust that leaves you feeling naked and exposed. It makes you want to never open up again. But I want you to remember something important. The fact that they used your vulnerability against you doesn't mean you were wrong to be vulnerable. It means they were too small to handle the treasure you gave them. Now, I know this feels heavy. I know that as I've been speaking, faces might have flashed into your mind. You might feel a tightness in your chest or a coldness in your hands. That is your body waking up. That is your intuition finally being allowed to speak. And I want you to know that you are not stuck. You are not a victim of your own kindness. You are just a person who has been playing by a set of rules that the other person was breaking the whole time. So what do we do? How do we heal? It starts with something called the gray rock method. If a manipulator feeds on your emotions, your anger, your tears, your explanations, then you must become as uninteresting as a gray rock. When they try to pull your strings, you give them nothing. You give them polite, boring, short answers. You don't defend yourself. You don't try to make them understand. You realize that their understanding is not a requirement for your freedom. You stop providing the fuel for their fire. It's not about being mean, it's about being unavailable. Next, I want you to start the 24-hour buffer. Manipulators love urgency. They want you to decide now, apologize now, or agree now. From today on, your new favorite phrase is, "I'll get back to you tomorrow," or "I need some time to think about that." This simple gap of time is like a shield. It allows the fog of their influence to clear so you can see the situation for what it really is. If they pressure you to break the buffer, that is just more proof that they don't respect your autonomy. And finally, I want you to do an identity audit. Find a piece of paper and write down who you were before this person or this situation took over your life. What did you love? What made you laugh until your stomach hurt? What were you proud of? Then I want you to pick one small thing, a hobby, a song, a way of dressing that they disapproved of, and I want you to do it today. Not to spite them, but to reclaim a square inch of your own territory. Healing isn't a giant leap. It's a series of small, quiet reclamations. As we close this conversation, I want you to take a deep breath. Feel the air in your lungs. That air belongs to you. No one else can breathe it for you, and no one else has the right to tell you how to use it. We've traveled through some dark woods today, but look around. You're still here. You're still standing. You've seen the scissors they were hiding. You've seen the maps that were drawn wrong, and you've seen the thermostats they were trying to control. You are moving from a state of reaction to a state of being. The voice in your head that tells you you're difficult or too sensitive or always wrong, that isn't your voice. It's an echo of someone else's fear, and echoes eventually fade if you stop giving them a wall to bounce off of. You are not broken. You haven't been stupid for trusting. You've just been incredibly brave in a world that sometimes rewards the fearful. You were misled into believing that your value was tied to how well you could serve someone else's shadow. But the shadow is gone now. You are the light. I want you to carry this with you, perhaps even whisper it when the air gets heavy. My peace is not a currency. My worth is not a negotiation. I am allowed to exist without permission. You are not a resource to be harvested. You are a human being to be honored, starting with the honor you give yourself. If something we talked about today clicked for you, if a weight felt a little lighter or a truth felt a little sharper, please let me know in the comments. Your story might be the map someone else needs to find their way out of the woods. We are all in this together, learning how to walk upright again after being told that we should crawl. If this felt like a conversation you needed to have, if it felt like a hand on your shoulder, then I invite you to subscribe and stay a while. We have a lot more to talk about, and I would be honored to walk this path with you. Be kind to yourself today. You've been through a lot, and you're doing better than you think. You've earned your peace. Now, go out there and live in it.